The Galactic Council had always believed that war was inevitable between advanced civilizations. Every species they encountered had a history of conflicts, territorial disputes, and violent struggles for power. But humans were different. They actively avoided war, and that confused the Council. Seltor, the supreme strategist of the Exelvarn Empire, had never lost a battle. He had studied the history of countless civilizations, and every single one had relied on war for expansion. But when the humans entered the galactic stage, they behaved in ways no one could understand. They made alliances instead of threats. They preferred diplomacy over conquest. They even traded with species that had once been their enemies. It made no sense. The Council had called for a special meeting to discuss this anomaly. Representatives from the most powerful species gathered in the Grand Hall, their holographic forms shimmering in the air. Seltor stood in the center, his four glowing eyes narrowing as he spoke. The humans are weak. They fear war. That is why they avoid it, he declared. A murmur spread through the assembly. Some nodded in agreement, but others were not so sure. One of them, a tall reptilian being named Korak of the Drakhthan Dominion, tapped his claws on the metal table. "Are you certain, strategist?" Korak asked, "Or is it possible that humans know something we do not?" Before Exeltor could respond, the chamber's doors opened, and a human representative stepped in. It was Ambassador Elias Carter. He was a middle-aged man with sharp eyes and a calm demeanor. Unlike most humans, he did not wear the traditional robes of diplomacy. Instead, he wore a simple suit, something that made him stand out among the extravagant alien attire. "Ah, the humans finally grace us with their presence," Seltor said mockingly. "Tell us, Ambassador, why does your species avoid war? Is it fear or weakness?" Carter smiled, unfazed by the insult. "Neither." Seltor crossed his arms. "Then explain." Carter took a deep breath before he spoke. "You see, war is expensive. It costs lives, resources, and time. Humans learned this lesson long ago. We fought wars for centuries, and we became very, very good at it. But then we realized something. The best way to win a war is to never start one in the first place." Korak leaned forward, intrigued. "And if war is forced upon you, what then?" Carter's smile faded slightly. "Then we end it. Quickly, decisively, with overwhelming force." The room fell silent. Many of the alien representatives shifted uncomfortably. They had all heard rumors of human warfare. Their history was filled with battles where they turned the tide against impossible odds. Wars where they fought not just with weapons, but with strategy, resilience, and sheer determination. Seltor scoffed, bold words. "But I have yet to see proof that humans are as dangerous as you claim." Carter tapped a small device on his wrist. A holographic display appeared in the air, showing classified footage from previous conflicts. The Battle of Titan, where a small human fleet annihilated an entire armada using superior tactics. The defense of Nuterra, where human soldiers fought relentlessly against a technologically superior enemy and emerged victorious. The Siege of Andromas, where a single human-led squad infiltrated an enemy stronghold and disabled an entire planetary defense system overnight. Seltor's confident expression wavered as he watched the recordings. Korak let out a low growl of approval. Carter turned off the display and looked around the room. "We do not seek war. But if war comes to us, we do not hesitate. We do not hold back. And we do not lose." Silence filled the chamber once more. Seltor clenched his fists, but he said nothing. He had studied countless military histories, but none had prepared him for this revelation. Korak stood up and nodded toward Carter. The Drakhthan Dominion respects strength, and we respect wisdom. Humans have both. Perhaps war is not the only way to prove one's power. One by one, the other representatives nodded in agreement. The Galactic Council had always assumed that war was the only path to dominance, but the humans had shown them another way. Seltor, still struggling to accept this truth, finally sighed and stepped back. Perhaps I have much to learn. Carter simply smiled. That is the first step to real power, strategist. Understanding. As the meeting concluded, the council members left with a newfound respect for humanity. War was no longer seen as the ultimate test of strength. Instead, the ability to avoid war, to seek peace while holding the power to end conflict swiftly, had become the true mark of a dominant civilization. And so, the galaxy changed that day. Aliens were shocked. Humans rocked. Expansion. Days after the meeting, Seltor sat in his private chambers, replaying the footage of human battles. The tactics, the precision, the sheer ruthlessness. Humans did not fight like any species he had encountered before. He summoned his chief intelligence officer, Vartok, to analyze the data. "What do you make of this?" Seltor asked, rubbing his chin. Vartok hesitated. "I believe we have underestimated them. Their strategic depth is alarming." Meanwhile, Carter returned to the human embassy, reporting his success to Earth Command. "They are beginning to understand," he said, "but we must be prepared." Months passed, and the council took a different approach. Instead of war, they began to engage humans in trade and joint scientific ventures. A historic treaty was signed, ensuring mutual cooperation. Still, whispers of war lingered in the void. Some species resented humanity's approach. A rogue faction of the Excel Varn, unwilling to accept peace, launched a surprise attack on a human colony. What happened next would be remembered forever in galactic history. Human forces retaliated swiftly. Within days, the rogue fleet was annihilated. Entire Excelvarn supply lines were cut off, and strategic outposts fell one by one. The war ended before it could even begin. The message was clear: humanity did not start wars. But if forced, they would end them, decisively and without mercy. The Council formally recognized humans as the supreme strategists of the galaxy. And from that moment on, war was no longer seen as a path to power, but as the last resort of the unwise.